Gentlemen, take the thing out. I'll take it out.
Hey guys, welcome back to Beyond the Badge. We appreciate you tuning back in and following us through our journey. Today is going to be a little bit different. Today I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable. I'm going to kind of just talk to you guys about my journey, kind of the downfall of everything the last year, and where we are now and how we got there. For me, sharing has been very therapeutic in this process, making sure I know there's so many of you out there that are feeling the same things, that have gone through the same things and are suffering in silence. So for me to be able to speak out, to give a voice to other people, it's really been helping. And the amount of people who reach out to me that I would never have thought of, would reach out because they've been hearing some of my story has been really impactful. Keeps me going. So we appreciate you tuning back in to Be on the Badge.
Before we jump in, I want to just in advance thank you, Nate, for your vulnerability. This is going to be raw. This is going to be unfiltered. We're going to talk about your whole journey. We're going to talk about mine in a future episode. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being willing to open up and to share your story, because I know it resonates with so many.
Yeah, no doubt. That's it's the power of the mic, I will call it, right? For others, this isn't a good thing, but for me, for whatever reason, being able to share, it helps. It really does.
All right, so let's just jump in. So Nate, you've been a cop for 14 years. You've worked for a couple different departments. What is it that happened in this last year that kind of changed everything for you?
Yeah, it's actually my 14-year date is next week. 2011, August 23rd, so it's coming up on my 14-year mark. It's pretty crazy. Crazy to think. I worked in Wisconsin for several years, a little over 5 years, and now in Minnesota. And it's been cool. It's been a cool journey. What's happened the last year, though, to me is just really understanding the profound effects of just, how we use the word compound interest, how that's like such a good thing if you're trying to make some money, right? I think we have what we call compound trauma, and seeing just nasty stuff and whatnot for the last several years, it really, without me knowing it, started to build up inside. Especially the last 3.5, 4 years, I had an assignment in our special investigations unit. And really what that was is we helped out with all the homicides and shooting calls, and did those investigations. And I think just the volume of nasty finally caught up to me.
So when you switched units, do you think that it was the switch in the units that impacted and was that catalyst for what's happened in this last year? Or do you think it was just building throughout your whole career?
Yeah, I think it was a build up, right? How I try to explain it is I feel like your body has a bucket for trauma, and you can only put so much into that bucket without you taking care of it before your bucket tips over. How much that is, how much your bucket can be different than my bucket, that's the crazy part. I was starting to feel some of these things before. I had just not to the extent. I was already getting more grumpy. I was getting a lot more frustrated. I was drinking a lot heavier. And I didn't really notice that at the time. It just stress. Life is stressful. The job is stressful. Putting both of those together with a family is stressful. Trying to run a business at the same time is stressful. So I think just stress was compounding for so long. And then my bucket tipped over, literally.
But it's not like it was like that for a super long time, right? You have the good memories, you have the good shifts, you have all of those things. Do you sometimes think, oh, well, if I had just done this, if I had just done that.
Yeah, that's the crazy part of is, I don't know if it's part of my anxiety or what, but the what if game, man, I what if for 24 hours a day. So about me, I'm a police officer. I'm also a realtor. 2020, I had a phenomenal year in business. I sold 23 homes. I helped, I believe, 15 different cops buy and sell homes that year. And I was really all right, progressively selling more houses and more houses, to the point where I was like, well, hey, maybe I should get out of being a police officer, because what if I had an extra 50 hours a week to put into real estate? Where could I bring it, right? I decided not to. I kept going with the policing, obviously. So to me, that is my biggest what if, is what if in 2020, during all the craziness that was happening after George Floyd and COVID and all this stuff, if I would have just said, you gave it a good run, like move on, try your next endeavor, which would be real estate full time. So that what if always plays. And the what if I wouldn't have taken this new role and been, prone to seeing so much nasty stuff day in and day out, would my bucket have tipped? And that's the ultimate unknown, is like, and that's that game. What if?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but based off of the timeline, you were working the streets during COVID. So you were dealing with all of that craziness, then coupled that with George Floyd, and then also going to your specialty unit where you're seeing the worst of the worst things. You're still working the streets during this time too, right? So you're still seeing the day-to-day acts that we've discussed in the past, like the shootings and being first on scene and all of those things. So do you think that being on the specialty unit and still working the streets and still working during a crazy time like COVID, do you think that probably continued to add to like your cumulative stress?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, COVID sucked. It sucked for everybody, right? But being a police officer during COVID, yeah, I remember the first time I tested positive for COVID. It was like, right away at the start, where like we didn't know what was going on and there wasn't vaccines. And I remember it was like 3 a.m. and my little CVS like email came through, like your test results are in. And I was already at that time in my basement, because I had felt symptoms. Separated myself, and I read it and it said you tested positive for coronavirus, whatever. And I remember at that time it was so new, and I was like, I'm about to fucking die. Like I didn't know what was going on. And did I get it at work? I'm pretty sure I got it at the hospital like 3 days beforehand. That's just my guess. But it's like, did I bring that home to my family? Am I going to die? There's not a vaccine. What does this mean? Am I going to be on a ventilator? Am I going to be one of those people that, you keep seeing on the news at that time that just dies of respiratory failure because you put on those ECMO machines or whatever the hell they're called? And so that was stressful too. And then you're going into people's homes wearing masks. At the time you had to quarantine for like 2 weeks. So am I just not going to get paid during that? And then to wrap it up, during George Floyd, the amount of stress that was, working like, I don't know, 27 days in a row or something with the National Guard. And then luckily I got this new assignment into our special investigations unit. And I really feel like at that time is when the stress began to get a little bit worse.
So we talk about stress. There's one thing that one of my group therapists actually mentioned, and I don't know if I've ever said it to you, but he calls it cumulative occupational stress injury, or COSI for short, because there's so much stigma around PTSD, and COSI kind of sounds nice, but it's not, because when you're in those front lines working, especially during COVID, especially like you are responding to people on their worst day ever. And we've talked about it in previous episodes. When we're responding to people's worst days ever, they're not recognizing that those days stick with us, and people don't recognize that, and they see it as their worst day. But what is it for us? Like, what is that when we have to go in with that brave face and tell that mom, like, your son's going to be okay, but you don't know if he's going to be okay? Or you have to hold that parent as they scream because they've lost their child, or the spouse whose significant other was killed in a car accident, or anything like that. Like, we're having to respond to those days. And I feel like a lot of the times it's like the typical thing we do is we just brush it off and we make those dark humor jokes. So how are you coping during this time frame before you actually sought help for your COSI or your PTSD? What were you doing to treat your symptoms?
I mean, really drinking and then working more, which is really, it seems like an oxymoron, but I think when you're not at work, you have time to start thinking about a lot of that stuff when you have downtime. And for me, is if I'm at work, right, I'm in the present, I'm worried about what's going on right now. I'm not having that downtime to think about that nasty call, right? You're just waiting for the next nasty call. So for me, it was just really overworking myself. I became, at the time, I'm not realizing it, but I'm drinking a lot more. I'm isolating. I'm coming home and I want nothing to do with my kids. Like, you guys are bugging me, give me some space. When really all they want is, a hug and for me to get on the floor and wrestle with them. I'm short with my wife. And a lot of it is like at the time you're not even knowing. And I think it's because deep down you're scared because you're feeling this kind of stuff, but you don't know what it is at the start. You're feeling that change, you're feeling that tension, but you don't know what it is. And I can remember the very first time all of a sudden I kind of like had that panic attack as I was sitting in the sauna at work, and it was like I could feel my heart jumping out of my chest, and I was getting tingly and fuzzy and like tunnel vision. I'm like, holy shit, right? Go to the hospital, set me up EKG, nothing, just stress. I'm like, huh. Before I had my downfall, it was like a gradual like going down. I kept going to the doctor. I went because for me, I feel like my PTSD and stuff like so somatically. Like for me, it was my vision and my dizziness and my lightheadedness. It was always kind of like I was like off. So I started going and I started getting different medications. They'd scan me, they'd hook my brain up to all these little probes, and they were trying to induce a seizure to see if it was that kind of stuff. Like I had been going to the doctor every day. Like, what is going on? I'm off. But I wasn't bad because it got way worse. You know what I mean?
So you said that happened probably 5 or 6 months. So like the spring of 2024 is when that kind of started the gradual downfall. You're going to doctor's appointments, you're doing those things. When did you notice another shift? Because I know you said that it started to get worse. What was like that journey like?
It was like September. I recall we were trying to play football outside with my son, and I just couldn't do anything. Like for some reason, it felt like if my heart rate went up, the dizziness got worse, and then I had to go sit down. So we'd be out trying to play football, and day one I could play for like 20 minutes, then it was like 5 minutes, and then 2 minutes, and then I was like, dude, I can only throw you the ball like 3 times, and I got to go sit down. And I'm like, what's going on here? And then I became really scared. And when I got off work, I would sit down in the basement and I would drink by myself and play video games and like just totally living a different life than normal. Like, dude, I got 3 kids and a wife, and I'm in the basement, drinking Crown and Coke, playing Call of Duty until 4 a.m. And then in October is when it got the worst. Me and my wife had a trip to Mexico scheduled, a little 3-day getaway. And like the 3 days before that, like I couldn't get out of bed. And what I'm learning now is these doctors just don't communicate. And every time I saw a doctor, they would give me a different medicine. And it's like they were working against each other, or it was too much, whatever. Basically, I was being over medicated. I couldn't get out of bed, and we're like, I wasn't going to be the Debbie Downer. Like, let's go to Mexico. We go to Mexico. Long story short is for the 3 days, I maybe left the bed like twice. I was in the pool once. We had room service almost every meal. Like I couldn't get out of bed. And I come home, I believe on like a Sunday. On Tuesday at work, I was feeling it again. I told my buddy like, hey, you're going to take me to the hospital. Like, I can't stand up right now. We went down the elevator. We started walking out the building. And I just remember like my vision tunneling like in the movies kind of. And I fainted and fell right there on the ground and was out for a little bit. And next thing I know, the fire guys were there. They got an IV in my arm. They're doing my blood pressure. They're like, your blood pressure is like 190. You could be having a heart attack or a stroke or what. Like, it doesn't help to wake up like what's going on. Plus, they're like telling you, you know what I mean? I got rushed to the ER, scans, everything, nothing. That's the frustrating part is like no one could ever find a reason for like my downfall.
Was PTSD ever brought up? Was trauma, was stress injury ever brought up? Or was it like, oh, you're just stressed, like do some yoga?
The only person who brought that to my attention was my therapist. And like, I knock on wood, shout out to Brittany. Like I had been seeing my therapist for like 6 months since that shooting. And I'll bring that back up. But she's like, you're struggling. You're showing the signs of, panic disorder, anxiety, PTSD. She's like, I think there's something else physically going on with you, but you're having these signs. But the doctors are like, I was nervous. My sister, like 10 or 11 years ago, had a tumor in her brain. So I'm like, scan me now. I probably got the same tumor, like worst case scenarios were going through my head. But no, it was never even brought up to me. And that's why I was so scared, because I was like, I'm a high functioning human being. I'm a sergeant in the police department. I oversee many people. I have a small business. I'm on boards of nonprofits. Like mental health, isn't that the people that live under the bridge and smoke meth out of tinfoil? Not regular working people.
So what So this all happened in October. You didn't end up going to Utah until February. So what was the catalyst that got you to say, okay, I need more help than what I'm getting right now? And to
Yeah.
seek that diagnosis of PTSD, of trauma, of all those things.
Yep. So when I fainted in October, I was like, all right, let me just take like 2 weeks off work. I'm going to go to the doctor. I'm going to figure all this out. We're going to get back in the saddle. Like, this is just temporary. I didn't understand like some doctors are 15, 16 months out for certain specialties, which is for a whole another topic because I think it's a scam. But after October, I just started getting worse and worse and worse to the point, literally, Colleen, where like I wouldn't get out of bed for a week, 2 weeks. A lot of it was I was just on too many meds. I'm really frustrated about that. Like they just don't cross communicate. It seemed like. So like no wonder why, because I was on like 5 SSRIs, I was on 2 antidepressants. Like, of course can't move because I'm so damn sedated. But it just after October, I just kept slowly going down and down and down and down and diving deeper into drinking and isolating. And now I'm starting to be embarrassed. Like people are wondering where I am, what's going on with you. And I don't know how to answer these questions. My boss says, when are you coming back? I don't fucking know. Like, you know what I mean? Like at the same time, I had that where I almost crashed my vehicle. So I stopped driving and I just kept seeing my therapist and she's just like, listen, you're really suffering from PTSD and anxiety. We had done some ART sessions and talked about it, but like it just wasn't getting better. And I'm the type where like, tell me how much it costs to cut this out of me. How fast can we get it done? Let's get this shit done. Like, get this out of me. What are we doing? Like, I can't have this be happening to me right now. I got shit to do. And I'm thinking like this is going to take 2 weeks. Lo and behold, we're at what, 10 months and we're still in the journey. But shout out to Brittany. Brittany knew about the chateau. So I didn't know this, but there have been multiple people from my department that had went to the chateau. I knew nothing about it. One day she goes, you're probably going to say no, but I want to run something by you. I was like, all right. There's this place in Utah. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I don't even know where Utah is on a map. Like since 8th grade geography, I've never been to Utah. It's an in-person residential treatment place. And I'm thinking automatically, no. What are you talking about? Why would I go there? I don't need that. Something's wrong with me. I don't need to go to mental health help. And then I just started looking into it and I started stalking the website and the reviews that they have on YouTube and realizing, hey, this is actually like for first responders and veterans. And she put me in touch with a member of my department who had been there before. And he basically was like, this is what happens. And this saved my life, he told me. And since he's been there, it saved his life. I agreed to take the call with the intake people. They said, hey, this was like literally on like a Wednesday. And they're like, hey, next Tuesday we have an opening. So I'm pretty thankful that the time frame was so short because I think if it was a longer buffer, like I would have probably said no. But I agreed to it.
And then you walked up those 15 steps.
Yeah, I mean, let me just tell you, I wanted to back out several times. First and foremost, it's, whatever, a 30-day stay. And then you read and it's like, all right, the first week you have no phone, no communication. And like, I'm not going to a fucking psych ward. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why am I going to be locked up? I have 3 children. It just seemed like shitty timing. Anytime is going to seem like shitty timing, but to the extent where my daughter's 4th birthday was like 35 days from that date. And I was like, listen, babe, I'll go. I'll be home for your birthday. And yeah, I ended up getting that one-way ticket to Utah, panicked the whole flight down there, got picked up by Colleen and made it up those 15 stairs. And here we are now.
One of the first things you said to me that you actually just said on this episode was just give me that magic fix, cut whatever it is out of me. Like I'm here to just be one and done and be over with. In the time that we were there, because you came a little bit after I got there and then you left a little bit after I left. That being said, you made so much progress. Your whole mindset kind of shifted. And once you realized that they couldn't just cut it out of you, they couldn't just be like, okay, you're done. You did the work and you went deeper and figured out things and admitted that you were struggling with a lot more than what you thought you came there for. Can you go into that a little?
Yeah, for sure. And I still have a problem with acceptance, I will say. Like, I'm very open and honest about it. Even when I was there, I was like, I don't have mental health. There's just something fucking wrong with me and let's fix it or give me the medicine. It really took almost 3 full weeks for me to be like, all right, you might be struggling with some of this stuff. And I see why people extend, because it takes a while for you to just accept it, I think. And then I realized, like, dude, you were actually having some suicidal ideations. Like, the thoughts you were having aren't normal, but common for our profession. You weren't just in the basement drinking, you were starting to have a problem. And I think just kind of realizing all of those things that I was doing that I couldn't see at the time really had a roadmap and showed kind of the downfall that other people were seeing that I wasn't trying to listen to.
It's that piece of we're unbreakable. Like, we have this persona that we have to put out to everyone else that we're good, there's nothing wrong with us, we're able to handle it all. And we start to believe, we 1000% believe that. Like, there's nothing wrong. It's not our trauma response. We don't have a trauma response, because what trauma response? During your therapy, during your time there, during the group sessions, things like that, was it other people's stories, which obviously we're not going to share on this? Was it other people's stories that resonated with you? Or was it more of those individual sessions where you were going deeper with your therapists that you recognize that, like, yeah, no, you're not this persona that you've put on?
Yeah. For me, it was the groups. I think it was just knowing that there's other people out there that are going through similar things, whether they were a firefighter or they were in an airborne unit in the Army, or like you, a nurse, or whatever you were doing. What I was feeling wasn't specific to me. It's actually very common. And I'm in a tiny house with, let's call it 16, 15 other people going through it at the same time. And I know that that's the reason that I was able to open up and dive into it, because I wouldn't have been able to do that with a group of people that haven't went through that. Because for me, at least, it's understanding is so important to me. I don't want to waste my time talking to people and explaining my stuff to people that don't understand it, because it's tricky, right? It is very tricky to explain. And you've heard me say it many times. I would rather have blown my knee out, got shot in the arm, something where people can understand. And for me to have a prognosis of like, all right, you're going to be laid up for 3 weeks. You'll cast for 2 months. You'll be back to regular duty in 5 months, right? Then I know what the plan is. But for this there's no plan. There's no time frame. And I mean, I'll jump ahead. That's what really scares me.
So with the group sessions, it's all about vulnerability. It's all about being able to open up to people and to share your story. And I truly believe that once one person is vulnerable, it inspires others to be vulnerable as well. And what's so great about having those group therapy sessions and being in such a close-knit group is we got to know each other and we trusted each other. And we were able to share things that people at home probably don't know about. Like, there were things that I shared that the closest people in my life had never heard. And you shared similar things. What was it that got you to finally open?
I think just knowing, like, whether you're in Oregon or Maine or Texas or, wherever a lot of these people were from, is the same things hurt. Trauma is trauma, I think. And for me, coming in there, one of my biggest ones was one of my last shootings with a little 11-year-old boy. And then getting down there, and there's people that also have trauma with children or been in shootings, or just knowing that these people understand you even more than the therapist, right? Like, therapy's great, but therapists are therapists. They haven't done what we've done on the front lines, right? And being in a place where it's all first responders and veterans and everybody's there because of the same thing. They have been injured mentally because of their profession, because they wanted to help people and do good in the world, but in return ended up damaged. I think helps you open up. It sucks to know that there's other people out there who feel how you feel. That's my number one thing. Like, it really sucks knowing other people out there know what this feels like. But then it's like, you only want to be around those people because they know how you feel. They're not judging you. They know it might have been a different shooting or a different person that died, right? But you know that they've seen that and it's affected them, and they can relate. And I think it's just all about relatability, because in the mental health, for me, it's so isolating. You feel all alone. You feel like no one understands. You feel like you're going through this by yourself. And now you're realizing, like, other people are feeling the same way. So if you can do it together, now you're beyond that stigma of you being alone.
There's the whole transition from being home, then being in treatment by surrounding yourself with those people. And then you have to transition back home. What was that transition process like?
Sucked. I'm not gonna lie. So, as I stated before, my daughter's birthday was like 35 days later, and I had a spring break trip already paid for. Me and my family were going down to Destin, Florida for spring break to meet up with my in-laws. So I'd already paid for all of this before Utah. So my thing was I need to be done for the birthday, go to Utah. I ended up extending. I missed my daughter's birthday, which fucking sucked, right? I remember one of our last Walmart trips, I bought a birthday card and I wrote it, and I was just, this is the worst fucking feeling because not only am I missing it, but like I told you I'd be back. And obviously, as hard as it is for us going through it, I think our families have it harder without us because, I mean, the times I did get to call my kids and I saw them crying, like, when are you coming home? Like, so many times I want to say, I'm going home now, care how I feel, like I'm causing pain. But back to it is, I stayed 40 days. I should have stayed longer, but I wanted to surprise my family in Florida and at least be there for a few days of it. Bad idea right from the get-go. You know, I flew home, grabbed my stuff, flew to Florida, was in a small condo with like 15 people. It was a lot. But then getting back home, the transition period, it's really tough because when you're at Utah or wherever you are, it's so sterile, right? They do such a good job of, there's no TV, there's no news. You don't really have your devices unless you're cheating, which I cheated a lot. But you just don't have stress of life. And especially when stress is a contributing factor to your mental health, and then all of a sudden, boom, here's 40 days of bills. Here's all this mail you missed. It hits you and you're not ready for that because you're still just trying to figure out you. You're not being woken up by somebody banging on your door at 6 a.m. saying, wake up, time for yoga. You know, you're back to life and it's unstructured. And unless you have the willpower and the commitment, you know, from the jump to set a schedule for you, which I didn't, it sucks. And there's been many times where I would cry and tell my wife, like, I need to go back because I had a really shitty time, I will say, just trying to navigate it, understand what's real, what's not. Back to the medication portion of it. What should I take? What shouldn't I take? What do I do now that I'm home? My wife and family don't know the same things that the therapist there know. A lot of it too is like other people, are you fixed now? Like, you know, just trying to get past a lot of like, it sucked. It still sucks today, but it's way better today than it for sure was back in April. So I will say it's so much better. It took a long time to get going. Momentum was slow, but now that I have my momentum, like I can see progress, and that's what keeps me going and hopeful is being able to see that progress.
If you could share one thing to inspire someone else, either to seek treatment or to keep fighting the fight, what would you say?
I would just say you're worth it, dude. Like you can do such hard things. And I say this to myself every time I have anxiety. Like, listen, I have survived the hardest days of my life. Every day where I'm like, I'm going to die or this is impossible or I can't do this. And my anxiety takes over. None of it was true. Like I wasn't going to die. I wasn't having a heart attack. I'm not going to get in a car crash. Like your brain is so powerful and sometimes it works with you and sometimes it works against you. But you have to know that there's hope. Whether you're struggling with substance abuse, mental health, past trauma from childhood, it gets better. It may not go from 0 to 100. It might go from 0 to 10 and then 10 to 12 and 12 to 30, right? It might skip some steps, but you're worth it. You're so much stronger. And the day I realized that was in Utah. I'm a big boy. I'm 300 pounds, 6'3". I don't like confined spaces, just naturally. I don't like heat. I don't like saunas. You know what I mean? And when they brought us to the sweat lodge, like I told myself, I'm not even going. I tell myself I can't do it. You know what I mean? I always make excuses. Boy, I made it through all 4 rounds of that sweat lodge. And that was like the most, I don't even know, spiritual, emotional, transitional like day where I'm like, I can do fucking hard shit. And the number one hater I have, the number one person holding me back is not anxiety or PTSD. It's me. And if I can start thinking about it differently, you can think about it differently. Like, so that for me is like the biggest advice is like, you can do it. You're not alone. There's so many people out here with the same struggles, which sucks, but that means you're not alone, right? There's a tribe, there's a community of people, and hopefully we can continue to grow that community even larger and keep it close knit with this podcast, right? with this information that we have and just be a place for everybody to be a positive impact in each other, because it's so easy to get down. It's so hard to climb up, and you need help. You're not going to do it by yourself. And if you can have a community behind you, it's going to make it that much easier to start going up that journey.
Nate, thank you for being so vulnerable. Thank you for opening up and sharing your story. Thank you for continuing to fight each and every day. I am so incredibly lucky to have met you back in February. Consider you one of my tribe, and I don't know what I would be doing without you. You have inspired me so much, and I know that probably makes you cringe right now, but you have inspired so many people by being vulnerable, by sharing your story, by sharing your struggles. And I know for a fact that this episode is going to help so many people.
And I just want to say one thing to end it too. It's like, I'm not healed and there's no finish line. And that's what's taken me so long to really understand, is like, I'm not doing all this work to get back to where I was. Because where I was is not a good place. Like, this is going to take energy and you doing the work just to maintain. So that's what I want to make sure like is understood. I'm not healed. You're not healed. There's no healed, right? It's just all a chapter in this journey. And that's what I'm really like shifting my mindset to, is like, I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm just trying to be better than I was yesterday.
Yeah. And honestly, today you are healthier than you were yesterday, and you are the healthiest version of yourself that you have ever become. And it's all because you took that first step. So thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you to everyone who tuned in today to listen. We hope that this resonated even just a little bit with you. And we hope that if you are recognizing some of your own story and what Nate has shared today, that you reach out and that you get the help, and that you continue to become that 2.0 version of yourself, because it is in there, it is coming, and it is possible.
Yep, for sure. If you're feeling some type of stuff that you've never felt before, like, get help. Don't wait till you hit the bottom. If you have a family member that you're noticing that's going through this kind of stuff too, I think that's one thing too. I think your family can see the changes in you before you do, obviously, right? So family in that support is so important. Like, if you're seeing this in your loved ones, share this with them, right? Share that there is help. Don't watch them dig and dig and dig and dig that hole, because it could be their grave, literally, that they're digging. So reach out if you need help. Spread this love, spread the word, join our community. And like I always say, in community, we're going to heal, and we're going to heal in this goddamn community that we're building. So peace out. Thank you, Colleen. Beyond the Badge, baby, episodes coming soon.
That was so good.
I'll figure it out.